Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money Markets here with your weekly marijuana market update. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and get notified each and every time we post a new video. Got a lot of great weekly video features we have on here, including Ask Adam Anything. This is where I sit down with our chief investment strategist, Adam O'Dell, and ask him any question that you have related to the market. Then there's Investing with Charles, where I get to sit down with Green Zone Fortune's co-editor, Charles Sizemore. And we talk about all things, including stocks, the economy, ways you can improve your wealth, and we even compare stocks and all sorts of things like that. We do that. And then we have the Bull and the Bear. This is our weekly podcast where I give you the trends and analysis that move the market. All these series are available on our YouTube channel. We're looking to add some new things as well, so make sure you check back often and find out what we're working on next. And I also want to make sure you're checking out our premium investment service, which is called Green Zone Fortunes. Adam, Charles, myself, and our entire team work hard to give you our best stock pick every month. Plus, you get insight, analysis, and all sort of access to Charles, Adam, myself, and it's all delivered to your inbox. We're going to put up a link up at the top here. You can find out more about Green Zone Fortunes. Now, today I'm going to get into a pair of reader questions that were sent to me. First, Don emailed me at feedback@moneymarkets.com, said, "Hi, Matt. I try to watch all your cannabis updates. I may have missed it, but I don't recall seeing anything about major multi-state operators like Trulieve, Curaleaf, Cresco Labs, and Green Thumb. Since prices are down, wouldn't it be wise to allocate a small position, knowing that some form of legislation could get passed this year for midterm elections, seeing how both parties have made proposals? Thank you for your thoughts, Don." Well, Don, thank you for your question. Let me get right into that. First, let's look at all four of these companies side by side. As you can see by the chart here, it's been a virtual bloodbath for all four of these major cannabis players. Cresco Labs, which trades over the counter under CRLBF, it's down about 56.1%. Trulieve, which trades over the counter under TCNNF, is off by about 55%. Curaleaf trades over the counter under CURLF, is dropped about 52.8%, and Green Thumb, which trades over the counter under GTBIF, is the best performer out of all four, but it's still down about 43%. Basically, what Don is asking here is if it's prudent to buy some positions of these operators based on the premise that Washington is going to take some action related to cannabis. My first piece of advice is don't rely on Washington or Congress to do much of anything, especially related to cannabis. Now, yes, there are different proposals out there from both sides of the aisle, but Congress is so contentious these days that even though the proposals are similar, one side will vote against the other just out of spite. Consider this. The U.S. House this week passed some form of banking reform related to cannabis. For the sixth time, the U.S. House of Representatives passed some kind of banking reform related to cannabis in some way. 6 times. The legislation would give cannabis companies access to banking services that are currently prohibited under federal law. It would allow banks to extend lines of credit to cannabis companies, which would go a long way to helping the stability of the industry. Now, this time, the banking legislation was tucked into a broader bill related to business competition with China. Yeah, cannabis banking has really nothing to do with China, but welcome to Washington. Now, previous iterations of the legislation have included a standalone bill, which never made it out of the Senate committee. In fact, it was taken out in a conference. An amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, which is a bill that has always passed both chambers because we're talking about defense priority spending. But cannabis banking was stripped out of the final bill before it was signed into law. Cannabis banking reform has been championed by both sides, Don is right, in the House, as well as the Credit Union National Association, which is basically an association that is kind of a group association of credit unions across the country. However, in the Senate, there are some who want to see a broader overhaul of cannabis laws passed before any banking reform is taken up. The political wrangling is part of the reason why these multi-state operators, as well as the broader cannabis market, has seen a massive drop in stock value in the last 12 months. So to Don's question here, the prospect of any kind of cannabis measure being passed before the midterm election is slim at best. Investing on that premise alone is not something I would recommend. But the drop in stock price does present a potential buying opportunity for investors looking to break into the cannabis market. However, there's one thing to keep in mind, and that's all 4 of these MSOs rank either neutral or bearish when it comes to my cannabis ranking system. Trulieve Cannabis Corporation ranks a 55 overall. Cresco Labs ranks a 51. Curaleaf Holdings scores a 35. And Green Thumb Industries scores the lowest. It is a 26. Now, my system scores cannabis companies against each other, not against the broader market, against each other on momentum and value metrics to generate an overall score. The higher the score, the more bullish we are on it compared to the rest of the cannabis market. It only rates cannabis companies, like I said, so because it's really not fair to compare Google and Green Thumb. They're not the same companies. They're way different metric-wise. So what I did is I developed this in relation to our Green Zone rating system, which you can find at moneymarkets.com and actually use for free to look at the ranking of any one of about 6,000 stocks. I did this because I wanted to make it a fair, level playing field for cannabis companies to rank against each other. And again, as far as our Green Zone rating system, you can actually use that for free at our website, moneymarkets.com. Now, if and when cannabis legislation does pass, and there's a big question as to if, more so than there's a question of when, it would lift the entire cannabis market, which has been taken out behind the woodshed of late. However, these multi-state operators are going to see very strong gains initially due to the nature of their business encompassing a larger percentage of the cannabis market. Other cannabis stocks are going to follow for sure, but I think it'll take some time for those much smaller companies to see gains that larger ones are going to see right off the bat. The bottom line here is I would invest in cannabis companies with the hope that legislation makes its way out of Washington, and if it's signed by the president, who is not fully committed to legalizing yet. What I would do is if you're going to invest, and understand that the market is volatile, the market is down, and there's the prospect that you're going to see losses before you see any real gains. Don't do it based on legalization because I think we're still a bit off from that actually happening. So Don, thank you for your question. My team and I are going to reach out to you and get you set up with some free money and markets gear for your efforts, like a t-shirt, sweatshirt, hats, all sorts of good stuff. We'll get you hooked up with it. Now, move on to our second question. Doug also emailed me at feedback@moneyandmarkets.com, and he said, watch your podcast every week. Have a small position in the BUDX ETF that I was ready to liquidate due to hitting my stop loss. When I look at the action, meaning the price change, volume, etc., it doesn't show anything, almost like the fund is closed. What can you tell us about what's happening with the BUDX ETF? Thanks, Doug. Well, thank you again for your question, Doug. Appreciate that. He is referring to the Investment Manager Series 2 Trust Cannabis Growth ETF, which trades under the ticker BUDX or BUDX. It invests in cannabis companies around the world, and it benchmarks its performance against the Cannabis World Index as well as the S&P 500. Now, BUDX actually started as a cannabis mutual fund, which was started by Foothill Capital Management, and it was rolled over into an ETF in late 2021. Now, from June 30, 2020 to June 30, 2021, the fund actually returned investors 94.5%. It's a pretty big thing, especially for the cannabis market. But its assets under management are relatively low at just around $5 million at that time. Now, it competes in a market that already has at least 5 other ETFs, if not more. You've got the ETF MG Alternate Harvest ETF, which is MJ. You have the Advisor Shares Pure US Cannabis ETF, which is MSOS. You have the Advisor Shares Pure Cannabis ETF, which is more global. It trades under the ticker YOLO, YOLO. Then you have the Global X Cannabis ETF, which is POTX, and the Spinnaker ETF Series Cannabis ETF, which is THCX. Now, to date, all these ETFs are down between 30% and 44%, with MSOS actually being the best performer, down only about 29.6%, and POTX down the most at 43.8%. Now, as for BUDX, as of this recording, the ETF is down about 38.6% since its inception in late September, and it's off 44% since its 52-week high, which was set right when it first released. So to answer your question, Doug, it's still an actively traded ETF that, as of this recording, has MSOS as actually its highest holding at 21% of its net assets. It also holds Innovative Industrial Properties, which is IIPR, AFC Gamma, which is AFCG, Village Farms International, which is VFF, and Tilray Brands, which is TLRY, as well as Scott's Miracle Grow, which is SMG. It has seen a slight rise, actually greater than all those ETFs I mentioned earlier outside of MSOS in recent days, but is still down overall. So it is still actively traded. It is seeing a little bit of an uptick, as are most other cannabis ETFs, and its uptick in the last, even in just the last several days, is actually one of the highest next to MSOS, which I've actually previously recommended as a potential buy in one of my earlier marijuana market updates. Now, I hope that answers your question, Doug. And just like Dawn, my team's going to reach out to you and get you hooked up with some free money and markets gear. Now, if any of you out there have a question about a particular cannabis stock or maybe just the broader cannabis market, you can just email me. My email address to reach me at is feedback@moneyandmarkets.com. We'll drop that down below. Or you can also comment here on our YouTube channel. We look at both. I like to look at the comments as well as check the email and like to see any of your feedback. So you can email me. Again, it's feedback@moneymarkets.com, or comment down below here on YouTube. If you send us a question and we use it, then we're going to hook you up with some money markets gear like t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, all sorts of good stuff. We'll get you hooked up with that if you send the question and we use it. Don't forget about the great free content we have here on our YouTube channel. It is the best insight into investment from Adam, Charles, myself, and it is all yours for free. Follow me on Twitter as well. I'll give you more insights, not just into the cannabis market, but the broader market as well. You can find me on Twitter. Invest with Matt C is my Twitter handle. I've actually answered questions on my Twitter. So if you follow me and ask me a question, I try to answer you back as well. So you can get that. That is Invest with Matt C on Twitter. Thank you to everyone who watches our videos each and every week. We do it because we want to bring you the best insights into not just cannabis, but into investing as well. Check out Money Markets each and every day. We provide you safe, sound, smart, simple, profitable investment information for your portfolio. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money Markets and your host of the Marijuana Market Update. Until next time, everyone, safe trading.